is a woman in Ohio who has never worked as a financial advisor, never held a securities license, and never managed a single dollar of anyone else's money. Last year, she made more from teaching people how to plan their retirement than most licensed financial advisors make managing actual portfolios, and she did it without touching a single client's investment account. If that sounds impossible, stay with me, because by the end of this video you'll understand exactly how this business works, and why it's quietly becoming one of the most overlooked opportunities in personal finance content. Here's the business: retirement planning content and courses, not financial advising, non-investment management, education. You're not managing anyone's 401k or picking their stocks. You're teaching people how retirement actually works, the accounts, the timing, the mistakes, the decisions most Americans are never taught in school or at work. Let's talk about why this gap even exists. Roughly 70 million Americans are approaching retirement age in the next 2 decades, and the vast majority of them have no formal education on how any of it works. They don't understand the difference between a Roth and a traditional IRA. They don't know when they can withdraw from a 401k without a penalty. They don't understand how Social Security timing changes their monthly check by hundreds of dollars for the rest of their life. Most people find this out by accident, usually too late, usually from a coworker or a Reddit thread, and almost never from anyone actually explaining it clearly. Financial advisors exist to fill this gap, but here's the catch. Most advisors are compensated to manage money, not to teach. Their business model depends on assets under management, which means their incentive is to get you invested with them, not necessarily to sit down and patiently explain the fundamentals in a way anyone can actually understand. That gap between, I need someone to manage my money, I just need someone to explain this to me in plain English, is exactly where this business lives. So how does it actually work? You build content, videos, guides, email courses, paid courses, that explains retirement planning in plain language. Roth versus traditional. How employer matching works. Required minimum distributions. Social Security claiming strategy. Healthcare and Medicare timing. Sequence of returns risk in the first years of retirement. These are all real, valuable, teachable topics that most Americans have questions about and almost nobody explains clearly. You monetize this in a few different ways. The first is a paid course, something in the range of $97 to $497, walking someone step by step through building their own retirement plan. The second is content monetization, YouTube ad revenue, affiliate links to retirement calculators or account providers, and email list building that leads back to your course. The third, and often the most lucrative, is done-for-you templates and calculators, spreadsheets that help someone model their retirement income, sold as a lower-priced add-on to the course. Now let's talk about startup cost, because this is where the idea becomes genuinely attractive. Unlike most businesses on a list like this, you don't need trucks, equipment, inventory, or a storefront. Your primary costs are your own time, a camera or screen recording software, a website or landing page, and possibly a course hosting platform, which usually runs somewhere between $30 and $100 a month depending on the provider. Realistically, you can start this business for under $500, and in many cases for close to nothing if you're willing to start with free content first and build an audience before selling anything. Here's the honest caveat, because I'm not going to sell you a fantasy. You do not need a securities license to teach general retirement concepts, but you absolutely cannot give personalized investment advice or tell someone specifically what to buy. That crosses into regulated financial advisory territory. The businesses that succeed here stay firmly in education. They teach the framework and the concepts, and they let the person apply it to their own situation, sometimes with the help of a licensed advisor for the final decisions. Stay in your lane, and this is completely legitimate and legal content. The ongoing work looks like this: consistent content creation, answering audience questions, occasionally updating your material as tax laws or contribution limits change every year, and slowly building trust with an audience that, by definition, doesn't fully trust the financial industry to have their best interest at heart. That trust is actually your biggest asset, and it's also the reason this business compounds over time instead of requiring you to constantly find new customers from scratch. Why does demand keep growing? Because every single year, another wave of Americans turns 50, 60, 65, and realizes they have questions nobody clearly answered for them. This is not a fad topic. It's tied to an aging population and a genuine gap in financial education that isn't closing anytime soon. So here's the real takeaway. This isn't a get-rich-quick idea, and it does take real work to build an audience and real knowledge to teach responsibly. But it's one of the lowest cost, highest leverage businesses on this list, because you're selling something that scales infinitely. Your explanation, recorded once, sold or viewed thousands of times, solving a problem that a huge and growing part of the population genuinely has. If this gave you a business idea you hadn't considered before, that's exactly why this channel exists. Subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this, and let me know in the comments if this is one you'd actually consider building. See you in the next video.